Welcome to Larking Gowen Insights, accountancy and business advice for all, a series that gives you bite-sized tips and guidance on tax, funding, legislation, reforms and much more. With case studies, business advisory and sector specials and even interviews, our team of experts are committed to helping you navigate the world of accounting and finance with a variety of presenters from across our specialisms. So, let's get on with today's show.
Hello and welcome to the Larking Gowen Insights podcast with me, Laurie Hill, one of the partners in the Farms and Rural Business team. And I'm also joined today by Bruce Masson, fellow partner in the Farms and Rural Business team. Today we are talking about the Autumn Farming Conference that is taking place on the 5th of November 2024 at All Saints Hotel. Really excited with the programme that we've got coming up this year. And we are very glad to obviously host this event in association with CLA. And I'd also like to, at this point in time, just thank our sponsors as well. So our headline sponsor being Alan Boswell. And we're also glad to be joined by Anglia Farmer as our official media partner. We are always keen to have key and topical themes as part of our conference each year. And therefore, I expect this year is no different. I would like to ask Bruce to cover what we're looking to talk about during the conference.
Thank you, Laurie. Yes, hello, everybody. This year, we're going to be in keeping with topical themes that we've covered over the last few years. Last year, we had a big session and a lot of discussion around water and either far too much of it for the rainfall or a lack thereof when we dearly need it in season. This year, in sort of keeping with listening to our clients and contacts and people who we keep in touch with throughout the year, the environmental and financial sustainability of the agricultural industry, it seems to be the most common talked about topics that we've got at the moment. There are lots and lots of buzzwords at the moment, particularly around environmental schemes, cessation of the basic payment scheme already announced, and the delinking of payments that has now come into force. The government and DEFRA over the last couple of years have introduced quite a number of new environmental schemes, which all have very, very handy three-letter acronyms attached to them. Very happy that we've got Abigail Maynard from Brown & Co, who's going to come and explain A, what a lot of these acronyms actually stand for, and B, how they actually work in practice to either complement exactly what you're doing on your farms and your businesses at the moment, or to actually replace lost income streams, for example, the basic payment scheme. And picking up the themes as well that we certainly mentioned in our first autumn farming conference, where we were very fortunate to be joined by Daniel Zeichner, who at the time was the shadow minister, and now since the election in July, he said he's not quite got the top job, but he's certainly got one of the big jobs, within DEFRA, and he very much rammed home at the time that he saw no reason why the environment and farming couldn't work side by side together. So it'll be very interesting to see, how that pans out in the iteration of this government. But with DEFRA actually being quite responsive, should we say, over the last 18 months with the announcement of a lot of their schemes, we're hoping that Abby can hopefully unravel, quite a lot of them and what they all mean. We'll get used to in terms of environmental, social, and governance, biodiversity, net gain, BNG, or just the SFI, sustainable farming incentive. So we'll have that one. One of the new bits that is actually coming in is actually the reporting thereon as well. So we're delighted to be joined by Michelle Masson, who works for one of the country's largest let estates. So Michelle will be talking about the reporting requirements that are going to come in for ESG purposes. So we will get used to terms like Scope 1 and Scope 2 over the next few years, and how these will actually impact businesses, large and small, within the next few years, and the measurement thereon, and how it's actually reported. As with any farming conference, we'd obviously have to have a session about farming itself, an absolute cornerstone of what we're actually reporting on. Bring back Laurie in to talk about our farming slots.
So in particular, our farming slots, as you say, Bruce, it is a farming conference and we want to talk about diversification, which has always been a buzzword. I'm very glad that we will be joined in the first session of the farming slots by Sam Steggles, who is the owner and runner of the Goat Shed, which is a thriving farm shop, butchery and restaurant business just outside of Norwich. He has had a fantastic story. They started initially with their goat cheese side of things from their field and cottage business, which then expanded from within, in particular, the pandemic. The Goat Shed initially started as a garden shed, and is now a significant farm shop and is well respected within the area. So to be hearing about his diversification and the succession piece within that, and how well he's done in that sector. Following that, we'll be looking particularly directly at farming and how a farming business has adapted with what they have from their land base and what they're trying to do differently. We have Edward Vipond coming, who is the estate manager at Troston Farms in North Suffolk. Edward is a well-respected individual and has spoken at a number of events with regards to Troston and what they're trying to do within their business and how they're trying to adapt to be continuing to be food producers, whilst also trying to work in alongside the environmental schemes and trying to get the right balance in order to achieve the relevant financial outcomes, which is what everything all comes down within business, that businesses need to be profitable to continue and to maintain the continuing investment as well as for the future and making sure they're financially viable. And then the final slot that we have of the conference is looking at inheritance tax, succession, and sort of a bit touching on a bit of furnished holiday lets, given that there has been some changes, which my co-host Bruce will be joined by a member of the Alan Boswell group to talk about that. So in particular, given we are going to be roughly 6 or 7 days after the budget, it will be an interesting discussion, don't you think, Bruce?
Yes, Laurie. We set the date of the conference, some months ago, before we knew there'd actually even be a general election, in July. So to then have following the general election, we'd always knew there'd be a budget statement in the autumn. I think we probably all suspected that the general election would be later this year. So we're expecting perhaps a budget statement by the previous government rather than one by the new government. So the timing of the conference is probably quite well placed, a week later, and I'm sure there'll be an awful lot to digest coming out of that budget. There's obviously quite a lot of rumours already circulated about what may and may not happen, with particular relevance to not only the farming sector but rural businesses in general. Lots of talk about capital gains tax and also inheritance tax as well. Whether or not there'll be substantial announcements about inheritance tax at the budget is yet to be seen, but no doubt there'll be quite a lot to discuss. So whilst the original theme of the presentation was going to be inheritance tax and particularly looking about things, succession, reliefs and mitigations against there, which is why our friends at Alan Boswell are going to come and talk to us about it as well, particularly from the life insurance aspect. It remains to be seen whether there's actually going to be, some further discussion about some of the aspects that that have arisen in the budget. Based on the sound bites that we've heard over the last few weeks, we can expect some real change. I think it's probably fair to say, but hopefully we'd have had enough time to digest it, well before my presentation at the conference itself. So very much looking forward to that session indeed.
Yes, Bruce, certainly it will be an interesting discussion coming off the back of that session. I suspect it will have the delegates in the room really asking questions and talking, especially over the lunch and the networking. But talking of the structure of the conference, we have actually adapted it this year, so therefore we will be having a longer morning and concluding with a lunch and some networking. There is no afternoon session. However, last year we did have obviously a very detailed and interesting discussion from a water panel. And this year, our panel discussion will be focusing around ESG. The devil is in the detail, and the ESG and the three-letter acronyms of environmental, social, and governance. This session will follow Michelle and Abigail's points when they're covering the environmental reporting. And hopefully this will allow people to ask the right questions, hear from various different perspectives, and hopefully come away with some key takeaways that they can take back to their relevant businesses.
Yeah, the good news, Laurie, is that I'm not chairing the panel discussions. That's obviously been left to Kath Crowther from the CLA, who is going to be with us again, which we're incredibly grateful for. And Kath very kindly is back from maternity leave just in time, as far as we're concerned, to be hosting this, because she's done an absolutely amazing job over the last couple of years. So we are delighted to have her back again to do that and facilitate, as you say, what will hopefully be a very informative and probably quite far-ranging discussion about some incredibly important topics.
Obviously, our key focus is on those who are working on the ground in the industry, to learn a few things that they can then hopefully take and apply to their businesses, in particular around the sustainability side and the environmental side, which continues to be very much in the forefront of the minds of those at DEFRA and the government who are pushing this side of things. However, from the tax angle and the budget, who knows what will come out from the environmental piece and whether they will backtrack on the previous discussions around extending APR to environmental schemes or not. But I will leave that to your capable discussion piece.
Oh, well, the gauntlet's been thrown down by the previous government on that one, Laurie. So we will wait on the APR extension for environmental schemes with effect from next year. So we shall see whether that is retained. I'm sure there will be lots of things to chew over. I think it's also important mentioning that once again this year we do have charity partners for the farming conference. To be delighted to be welcoming back Yana, You Are Not Alone, which provides mental health support for the farming and rural community, and the RABI as well, which provides practical, financial, and emotional support for the farming community. So we are absolutely thrilled and delighted to have our charity partners on board as well. And these say all profits from the event will go to these organisations.
Yes, that's right, Bruce. And therefore, I'd really encourage people to book their tickets and come along. The link to book tickets on our website is included in the show notes. So in summary, the Autumn Farmer Conference will be taking place on the 5th of November 2024 at All Saints Hotel, just outside Bury St Edmunds. But we have our main headline sponsor, Alan Boswell, joining us for the day, and they will also be presenting. We're also very glad to be joined by our other sponsors, Ashton's Legal and Virgin Money, along with our official media partner at Anglia Farmer. We're very much looking forward to seeing you there, and please go and book your tickets. And last but not least, I would like to thank Bruce for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you, Laurie.
I would also like to reference a bit of Alexander Armstrong as we finish, so it's a goodbye from me, and then goodbye from Bruce.
Thank you for joining us for Larking Gowen Insights, Accountancy and Business Advice for All. Don't forget, you can find more information about today's topic and more about how our team of experts can help you in your business by visiting our website, larking-gowen.co.uk. Join us again next time for another fascinating insight into the world of accounting and finance.